Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to our INNOVEIT Berlin, building new European Bauhaus. My name is Stephanie. I'm going to be in the background here today, together with my colleague Wallace and a lot of other colleagues from EIT Climate-KIC. We are going to start this morning with a guided meditation to get us off on the right and energetic foot today. So I'll invite my colleagues to come up and lead us through our meditation.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Annika Kappner. I'm a visual artist. I'm together here with composer and musician Eric Mals today. We're very honored and happy to open this conference. A few logistic things before we start. We're going to settle in for, indeed, a journey of roughly 30 minutes. I kindly ask you to switch off your phones, put down coffees, water, and I will then invite you to, I will do that afterwards, to close your eyes, to sit still. If at any moment you feel uncomfortable, just open your eyes, focus on your breathing. If you need to leave the room, please do so quietly and respectfully towards the other participants. And that's for the instructions. To tell you very briefly what we're going to do, we're going to basically work with the five alchemic elements in our body as a balancing and complementary force to our rational mind. So we're going to work with culture and biology to open up a space for true innovation. As Einstein said, we can't solve the problems with the same thoughts and patterns that have created them. So this is an invitation to connect with the larger wisdom of your physical, emotional, and mental body. But all of that we will experience in a few minutes. So I invite you to make yourself comfortable. You can sit with your legs and your feet placed next to each other. You can rest your back on the chair, sit straight and comfortable at the same time. You can place your hands either on your knees or like this in your, in this position, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Yeah. And then gently close your eyes. Inhale deeply and fully. Feel the air touching your nostrils. Allow the air to enter your chest, to fill up your lungs and your belly. And exhale fully. Again, inhale deeply and exhale fully. With the next exhale, you're going to release all thoughts and tensions. Ask your mind to rest for a moment, to simply observe. And you assure it that after these 30 minutes, you will continue with whatever you're meant to do today. Inhale deeply and allow the oxygen to fully replenish all your cells and your entire body. Feel the sole of your feet on the ground, your lower legs, your knees, your thighs, your hip joints, your sit bones, your spine, your shoulders, your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms and your hands, your neck and your facial muscles. Whenever there is a movement or sound, observe. And continue to focus on your breathing. Feel the earth underneath your feet, the ground. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Feel how the earth is carrying you. In alchemy, the element of earth is associated with nurture, with growth, with the mineral, the plant, and the animal kingdom. With the womb, in society, the element of earth governs all structures, political structures, social structures, and economic structures, resources, raw materials, finances, money flows. It also governs our pleasure, how we enjoy life through our senses. The element of earth is what sustains and nurtures us. Briefly connect and remember what you ate this morning, whatever it was. Be it grains, plant-based, milk products, they are all grown on the soil. They come from the earth. In your body, the element of earth is associated with the muscular system, your skin, and your skeleton. Your muscles allow you to move, and they sustain you. They uphold you. Briefly contract the muscles of your thighs to feel the immediacy and the power that they hold. Your muscles are also those muscles that work automatically without your conscious direction, like your heart muscles and your organs. Your skin is the largest organ that contains all bodily functions. It protects you from the outside world. It is also an interface of interaction through your sense of temperature, through touch, and your ability to feel vibration. Inhale deeply and allow the air, the oxygen, to reach the borders of your skin. Feel how it envelops and contains you. Your skeleton is that which allows you to walk upright and to work with the physical law of gravity, to exert movement and create what you envision. In your mind, envision the place on this planet, a piece of land, a garden, a piece of earth that you feel very connected to. That can be a memory from your youth, your holiday home, your favorite place in your neighborhood or your own home. Observe carefully the quality of the soil. Is it grass? Is it rock, sand, gravel? Or maybe the floor of a forest? Feel how that soil, that ground carries you. Connect with it. And observe the vegetation in this space around you, the quality of the temperature and light. The element of water in alchemy is the one that rules our unconscious, our dreams, and our intuitions. It is the one that dissolves all structures and blockages. In our society, it governs our relations, as it rules also our emotions. As the element of earth creates the physical, conceptual, and energetic infrastructures for our relations, the element of water rules their quality, that is determined by what emotions and what feelings we exchange with each other, be that in our private relations, with our family and friends, or in our professions. It also rules the relations between governments, different governing bodies, and all infrastructures through the quality of our own emotions. When we master the element of water, we learn to work with our deepest emotions and direct them consciously. The element of water in our society is essential to all forms of life and to all forms of physical production. It is a means of transport. And can be used as a source of energy. In ancient traditions, water is said to be a storage of information. The amount of water on this planet is constant since its first creation, billions of years ago. The water that is right now in your body, which is contained to up to 70% of water, has traversed our planet multiple times through the cycle of water, from rain to the oceans, the rivers and the seas, the soil, nurturing plants, quenching the thirst of animals and humans, evaporating, forming clouds, and traveling around the globe to rain and merge again with the larger bodies of water and the soil. Hence, the body that you are right now contains water that in turn contains information of almost the entire history of this planet. In our body, the element of water governs the lymphatic system, the excretory system, and the circulatory system. It is associated with our blood that, similar to the water, contains information and nutrients. It is the data highway of our body. Allow yourself to feel the flow of your blood as it rushes through your veins and through your arteries, continuously gathering and exchanging information. The element of fire is associated with creativity, with vision, with ideas, with willpower, all forms of power and action. It is the spark that literally enlightens a new thought, a new vision in our mind. It is the light that guides us on our path. And the fire, the willpower, the intention that allows us to materialize our visions. When out of balance, the element of fire can create distortions through hate and rage. When directed consciously, it allows us to evolve and move forward, to transform, to burn all that which is not necessary anymore, and transform it into fertilizer for the new. In our society, the element of fire governs indeed all creative actions and ideas. It also rules electricity, power generation, and the way we deal, receive, and exert with all forms of power in our personal and public relations. In our body, the element of fire governs the reproductive system, the digestive system, and the endocrine system that is responsible for the distribution and creation of our hormones, regulating our mood. All these systems are associated with transformation. Information is received, transformed, to generate new information. In the form of our vision and action. Allow yourself to feel the warmth of your body, and connect with the energy of the sunlight, which is what allows us to see and to exist on this planet thanks to photosynthesis. Feel the heat of your body. The temperature. Even if you're feeling a little cold, still there is energy and warmth being generated in your system. The element of air is the one that governs knowledge, wisdom, and communication. It rules all communication and data exchange, all information networks, our education system, and systems of knowledge production. Like the wind, the element of air can be very soft and gentle, and it can be very harsh and violent, similar to our mind. When it is out of control, it can be destructive. When it is clear and focused, it is what guides us to, together with the other elements and their attributes, manifest our visions and share them with those around us through our communication. Inhale deeply and allow yourself to feel the amount of information that you receive. Smell, temperature, the sense of air moving through you and around you. The element of air governs our respiratory system, our immunological system, and our nervous system. All of them biological system decides which agents to allow inside of our body and which ones not. Our nervous system sends continuously information from our brain as it receives input from all our senses and our mind through our entire body. Visualize how these electric impulses traverse your body. Feel this continuous information flow, impulses of invisible light moving through you. I now invite you to breathe into your heart space. Inhale deeply and breathe into the center of your chest. With your next inhale, hold your breath briefly. Inhale, hold, and exhale. And once more, inhale, hold, and exhale. A third time, inhale, hold your breath into your heart space, and exhale. The fifth element is ether. It is considered to be the base element, which, like a grid, like a matrix, allows the other elements to exist, to combine, unfold, and manifest throughout all forms of life. It is associated with neutrality and unconditional love. I now invite you to breathe again into your heart space. And within your heart space, there is a central cell. Connect with that cell and then enter into its nucleus. This is the space that allows you to connect with all your knowledge, all your expertise, the wisdom of all your experiences that are stored in your unconscious and your conscious mind. It is the center of what is called the heart brain, which is complementary to what we understand as the rational mind. In this space, I invite you to connect back to your favorite place on earth that you ventured into at the beginning of this journey. In this place that is in the center of your heart brain, I invite you to pose a question, to lay down a thought, a vision, an idea, a problem, that is at this moment most important. This can be connected to the reason why you're here today. It can also be something else. Offer this thought, idea, vision, or question to this space. And allow yourself to observe what emerges. This is the place where through your unconscious and your conscious mind, through the attributes of our mind and our being that can be articulated through what we understand as the 5 elements, you can create new visions, new pathways, new thought systems, and together we can co-create new futures for our community. Allow yourself to observe simply what emerges. Do not worry about remembering. Your being will feed you this information in your thoughts, in your dreams, in your conversations, today and in the coming days. This is a place that is always accessible to you, very simply by focusing on the center of your heart. Through breathing, you can connect to it. Inhale deeply into that space. Give thanks to it. Give thanks to your emotional, your physical, and your mental body. The 5 elements. This space, the city of Berlin, the lands of Europe, and our planet. For co-creating and sustaining. Very briefly, holding this vision in your mind, breathing again into your entire body, feeling your skin, your feet, your legs, your back, your arms, your chest rising, your belly moving, your nostrils expanding as you inhale. You ever so gently leave this space, knowing that you can always return, as it is your own center. Inhale deeply and fully, and exhale again. Inhale deeply and fully, and exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale, and then ever so gently become aware of your hands and feet. You can move your fingers and toe tips. Feel the skin of your legs resting on the chair. You can ever so gently move and wiggle a bit your body. Become aware of the space around you, the proximity of the person sitting next to you, the temperature of the air, the sound. And then ever so gently, you fold your hands in front of your chest, you rub your you rub your hands, and then you place them gently on your eyes like a cup. And then ever so slowly you open your eyes, you look through the light that is coming into your hand. Then you remove your hands and you welcome the day. And thank you so much for being part. And you will have a few minutes to land back into this physical space, activities of the day. We're gonna take down the instruments, and in the program that you receive, there is actually a brief description of what we're doing, and also how to continue to work with that on your own. I'll also be around if you have questions or would like to share thoughts. Again, thank you. And I wish you a beautiful, beautiful and very productive day.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to this EIT Climate-KIC event on building the new European Bauhaus. And of course, we also extend a hearty welcome to all those who are joining us online today. Wow, what a mindful start. Is this the first indication of big change coming up? For sure, we have all now built a stable foundation to start the next phase in our joint construction project called the New European Bauhaus. Who am I to moderate this event? I'm a former journalist and McKinsey consultant, passionate about social entrepreneurship and human development. Today, my work at Yunel is all about unleashing human potential for positive social change. And I guess that's part of the reason why I'm standing here. Change. Can we change the world in which we live? Can you imagine a world in which sustainability, inclusion, togetherness and beauty are part of our daily life? What does it take to turn the tide and possibly get global climate change under control? Or even better, transform the built environment in a way that we are more hopeful, that fear is fading away. And hope, that's exactly what Ursula von der Leyen was referring to when she launched the new European Bauhaus 2 years ago. Hope, from a psychological point of view, is will and way power. And I guess that's what we need in order to be open for change, collaborative, and more solution-oriented. So what's the plan for today? Today, we would like to explore what this new European Bauhaus is really about, why we need this kind of participatory movement in Europe, and how we can get everyone involved in order to make this inspiring vision real. Climate-KIC has put a wonderful program together. You all have it printed on your badge, where you also find a QR code. Using that QR code, you can also view all the bios of speakers and panelists, which makes my life much easier, thank God. But let me quickly walk you through the flow of the program. We start broad and then go really deep. The start is a highlight. John Schellnhuber, certainly one of the climate scientists of our time, is getting us up to speed on climate change and his personal vision for the new European Bauhaus. Then Heinrich Arnold, EIT governing board member, is going to enrich this broader picture through his expertise in innovation, technology, and system change. The next part of the event is then about what I would call bridge builders, pioneers in sustainable urban development that are already sitting in the space between vision, concept, and very concrete entrepreneurial initiatives on the ground. After the panel discussion, we are going to experience a firework of ideas. 6 initiatives that are supported by EIT are going to present their approaches and illustrate how this vision of the new European Bauhaus can become very tangible and real. And last but not least, Dr. Jürgen Ude, State Secretary from Saxony-Anhalt, will complete our picture from a regional perspective. Saxony-Anhalt is challenged in many ways. It has areas that are still dependent on coal, and Mr. Ude will show how the new European Bauhaus also creates opportunities for those regions in Europe going through deep structural change. Today's event, as you may know, is part of EIT's INNOVEIT Weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, there have been several events all over Europe, in Stockholm, Paris, Warsaw, Budapest. And the goal during those INNOVEIT Weeks and events is really to bring people together and discuss European-made solutions to global challenges like the future of sustainable mobility, innovation in health ecosystems, or innovation in higher education. Today's event is hosted by EIT Climate-KIC, and I'm happy to hand over to a woman with a similar name and similar colorful dress. Psychology says that when we see similarities in other people, it immediately creates trust. So I trust that now the rest of the welcome is in very good hands. Kirsten.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you very much. And welcome everybody to this INNOVEIT event. I'm delighted to be here to shine a spotlight on the work of the EIT community, and in this case on the contribution that the EIT community makes to the new European Bauhaus movement. EIT Climate-KIC is leading this, as Kirsten identified, and we consider it essential to our broader mission and purpose. So I would like just to open and frame this event to make a few reflections on why. Like all the KICs, EIT Climate-KIC is about innovation and technology with a purpose to solve, to address some of the major societal challenges of our time, and in our case that's climate change, which really means transformation of ourselves, of the human design for life, our economies and our economic principles, our society, our businesses, our education practices, our ways of building, our cities, and our relationship with land and manufacturing and industrial materials. And these are areas where EIT Climate-KIC is playing a leading role in the context of the Horizon Europe missions. The purpose of that effort to direct innovation and technology at a purpose, in our case, is to achieve sustainable living, is to regenerate the planet on which we have made such a mark, and in the next several decades, to survive. The new European Bauhaus is a uniquely and distinctively European call to action in this regard, to transform ourselves by applying, by introducing and living with principles, design principles of affordability and accessibility, of regenerative ecological design, and to make it beautiful so that it is worth having. I have been in a number of conversations recently reflecting on the possibility that we will achieve a net zero future. And it will be one of the most unjust worlds we have ever made, and it will not be worth having. This is an effort to make that different. I'd like to add a reflection about what we're doing here in a global context. I just came back from New York, from a gathering of climate leaders, climate action leaders, and institutions from all over the world. And one of the things that was really deeply apparent in that gathering is the urgency and the need for the principles that the European Bauhaus offers and asks for, but actually, most of all, the opportunity that Europe has to lead and to build markets in this context and in this way, and to create the businesses and the markets and the worlds of a sustainable, ecological, resilient, and just future. I also want to bring a reflection to what we're doing here in the context of this initiative and the contribution the KICs are making to it, linked to the new European innovation agenda and the call out for deep tech development in Europe, particularly now in a context of war, of security issues, of fears about self-reliance, self-sustainability, and in the case of climate, the need to begin to buy ourselves 10 more years so that our decision space can mature quick enough. The new European Bauhaus is about movement building. It's about creating social and behavioral tipping points for change so that technologies are used and so that outcomes can be achieved. And I'm delighted to be able to welcome John Schellnhuber to say more about that. And the last element, important for what we're doing here today, this is a collaborative endeavor. We are here representing several KICs. We are working on this together to share ideas, capabilities, ecosystems, networks, and our collective ability to act together. And that is essential. Principles of collaboration, principles of co-creation, and principles of interdisciplinarity explanation. These are essential to the success of the projects that you're going to hear about today, but they're also essential to the success and the leadership of Europe in a time of fragmentation and division. So please think of this event as a place where we are making a future, we're bringing some of the deepest technology as a species that we can offer is our capacity for ingenuity, our capacity to create and to make our futures, to explore, to experiment, and to learn from doing so. Those are the ingredients that lead to social and behavioral tipping points, that lead to the possibility of technology to be adopted, businesses to change, industries to transform, and societies to recraft their sense of self. And that's what we're here to do. To explore, to celebrate, and to shine a spotlight on the role of the EIT as a community of innovators, emphasizing and exploring this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. And there he is, Hans-Joachim Schellnhuber. Good morning, John. It's great to see you.
Good morning, Kerstin, and good morning, Kirsten.
So as you may see, John, we even have the same dress, so it's even more confusing for you in the future. So let me quickly introduce you to the audience before we kickstart our dialogue. Hans-Joachim Schellnhuber. Journalists have called him the climate pope of Potsdam, but friends prefer to call him John. John created or started the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in the early 90s and is very well known for his research on the so-called tipping points, major risks in the Earth system. John is also considered one of the fathers of the 2-degree goal that later made it into the Paris Agreement. Only lately, John Schellnhuber started to focus his work on the built environment. He started to talk about carbon sinks, organic architecture, and as you may know, in 2019 he founded Bauhaus Earth, a global institution to transform the built environment. And shortly after, the new European Bauhaus was also launched, and we are going to discuss also how these two institutions relate. John Schellnhuber is definitely a center of a revolution towards climate restoration and a built environment that is characterized by more sustainability, inclusion, and beauty. A big round of welcome applause to John Schellnhuber. Thanks for making it this morning. John, we only have 20 minutes to benefit from your climate expertise and vision. So let's get straight to the point. How are we doing in terms of our global climate goals? Are we on a brink?
Okay, actually, this morning in my hotel room, I apologize for not being with you in Berlin, but I had to go abroad. So this very morning, I was editing a number of responses to letters we received for a paper we published in the Proceedings of the US National Academy, PNAS. It's called The Climate Endgame, and this is a paper I would have loved not to co-author, actually, because 30 years ago I thought, when I founded the Potsdam Institute, that by 2020 we would have solved the problem, but we are far from having achieved that. So the situation is the following. In a Paris Agreement, which you mentioned, there is the 2-degree guardrail as a sort of international law, and many nations on Earth, almost all, have subscribed to that. But there is also this higher ambition level. Let's try to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees. And unfortunately, if you take a sober look at the situation, this target is out of sight, actually, already. We will overshoot 1.5 degrees in 15, 20 years or something like that. And so the big task really is to keep global warming at least near to 2 degrees. So my personal anticipation or prognostication is that we will overshoot it by a few tenths of a degree. Maybe we can stabilize the Earth climate at 2.2 or 2.3, but this is not good enough, actually. Then we have to work our way back to something I consider a safe level of global warming that would be about 1 degree. We have already reached 1.2. So this will be a 2-century journey, I guess. It took 2 centuries through the Industrial Revolution to more or less destabilize the climate through our emissions. We have created the modern world, which has many benefits, of course, but it will take almost the same time to work ourselves back to 350 ppm CO2 in the atmosphere, something like that, and in the long term, 1 degree warming, which is something we can manage, but we will have already a number of extreme events. So the bottom line is climate restoration, because we have already failed to do climate stabilization in time.
Thanks for being so honest with us, John. And what I'm taking away is really that it's too late to stop global warming. We have to find our way back and find a way to restore the climate. What I find quite interesting is that you've been engaged in climate research for more than 40 years, and only lately you started to work on the built environment. How come?
No, actually, I started quite some time ago, I think 7 or 8 years. I proposed to, at a retreat of Climate-KIC, actually, in Copenhagen, I proposed to look into timber construction as a means to sort of remove CO2 from the atmosphere. The echo was mixed, actually, but probably the time was not right because of the innovations which were not available. So, yes, I came to the conclusion over the last years that this is the big factor in the climate equation. The built environment, of course, responsible, if you look at the life cycles of buildings and infrastructures, responsible for about 40% of the global emission, unlike international air travel, which only produces about 2 or 3%. It is responsible for most of the waste in Western countries, and actually even responsible for 70 to 80% of the resources. which we extract from the earth. So it's the elephant in the sustainability room, if you like. The only explanation I have why we haven't looked at it is, and this is the case with all the elephants in the room, if a stupidity becomes too big, it becomes invisible. That is actually something I have borrowed from the famous German writer Bertolt Brecht. So we were not seeing the wood for the trees.
42% related to the built environment. That's quite a number, and I have to admit, I wasn't aware a few years ago. Now you refer to the term climate restoration. What is this restoration about, and how does the new European Bauhaus come into the picture?
Okay, most of my colleagues in climate science have already recognized that we will have to make the world climate neutral, as Kirsten was referring to, by stopping emissions virtually by 2050 or even better by 2040. So that means mobility will come without CO2 emissions. Same will be true for power production and so on. The world is on track to do this. I mean, we are very slow. We will not deliver in time, but this is more or less something that will happen. But my colleagues and I, we agree this is not good enough. We will have to actively remove CO2, so past emissions, if you like, undoing past emissions, we will have to actively remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Now, unfortunately, this came under the label of so-called geoengineering. So let's create wonderful technical gadgets and infrastructures to suck up carbon from the atmosphere. I've looked at all these schemes and they are all too costly, too risky. They will come too late, and you need political agreement among all the nations of the world. It's a very difficult thing. So I thought a lot about it, and my colleagues, and there is a natural solution. And the natural solution is, which I sort of boil down to the slogan, reforest the planet, retimber the city. That means, yes, we need to use the about 1 billion hectare of degraded land to increase the forest cover of the planet and to create a lot of co-benefits. And we have to turn our cities into built forests, if you like. So we have to use organic material. And then the wonderful thing will happen through photosynthesis. The plants will do the job for us. They suck up the carbon, they bind it in biomass. And if we harvest that biomass in a sustainable way and tuck it away in long-living buildings or furniture, whatever it is, for centuries, then we will have a net removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. And why am I saying this? Why I'm so optimistic that it can be done, apart from the many co-benefits? Well, it was done by nature 300 million years ago in the Carboniferous age. When you ask yourself, where does the oil and the gas and the coal layers come from? Well, this was 300 million years ago. There was a very lush vegetation on Earth. It was warmer, it was more humid and so on, and you had many wetlands. And when the trees fell into the water and were excluded from oxygen, so over many, many years, centuries, millennia, millions of years, coal was created, and this was a net removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. Last sentence on that, because we did a study on that. This almost removed so much CO2 from the atmosphere that the Earth was on the brink to be thrown into a new snowball Earth episode. That means we wouldn't be here. You and Kirsten and I and all the others wouldn't sit here because the Earth would have been glazed over by ice. So only about 60 ppm CO2 were missing to do this. So we can replay this, but of course stopping short of turning our planet into a snowball.
Reforest the planet, re-timber the cities. John, I guess you should have become a journalist with these kind of headlines, but as a matter of fact, you sometimes are more a kind of spin doctor. And sometimes I feel that people get a bit confused that right 100 years after the foundation of the original Bauhaus, you gathered people in Kaput and founded the so-called Bauhaus Earth. And just a few weeks later, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the new European Bauhaus. Is this just a funny coincidence, or how do these two organizations relate?
Yeah, it's not a complete coincidence, but incidents plays a big role. As always, if something new gets invented and gets started, I mean, also in my own work, I think 10% is hard work and 90% is just accident and association and things like that. So why 2019? Why did we create Bauhaus Earth, or Bauhaus der Erde, as it is called in German? Well, this was precisely 100 years after in Weimar, the original Bauhaus was created as eine staatliche Kunstschule, yeah? So a design school. And I was a bit angry in 2019 because there were lots of celebrations of the old Bauhaus, but nobody thought about, or very few people thought about, what could the Bauhaus approach do today? When you look around and see that the planet is going down the drain, we need this integrated approach, this Gesamtkunstwerk approach again, but at a much higher level, of course, and using the modern tools we have available, including artificial intelligence and all these things. When Ursula von der Leyen, whom I had met before, and we had lots of good communications, when she was sort of collecting ideas for her first State of the Union speech in 2020. She gave her third State of the Union speech just 2 weeks ago on Ukraine mainly, but in her first speech, she was collecting ideas, and I proposed, among other things, this new Bauhaus movement thing, and it's all to the credit that has to be given to her, that she singled out this suggestion and said, I will make this one of my main political missions. So she understood, she realized the beauty and the power of such an idea. And if she wouldn't have picked it up, we would not have this new Bauhaus movement. So it is the old game between an expert and a decision maker. Mm-hmm. You can suggest many good things if you don't encounter the right decision maker who has political leadership, when all your ideas fall flat. So I think it's 90% really her achievement and not mine.
Mm-hmm. You are a member of the high-level roundtable of the new European Bauhaus. John, what's your personal vision for the new European Bauhaus, and why are you so excited about this new movement?
Yeah, no, it is, the magic word is integration, of course, or Gesamtkunstwerk, whatever you call it. I think we have now a narrative, a fascinating story, if you like, how we can create a better world for all, actually, because the new European Bauhaus is about sustainability, inclusion for all, and beauty. And as a side effect of this creating a better world, which we certainly need to do, we get climate restoration. And this is actually a silver bullet approach. I mean, we have been trained to say there is no silver bullet, but sometimes there are silver bullets. In medical science, you know about that. And this is the fascinating narrative. We create a better built environment on Earth, and as a side effect, we get this sort of removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That means we can restore the climate. So we will build beautiful houses from organic architecture. We will build them for several generations to live there together, for example. We will rethink how we structure our cities and our landscape. And as a co-benefit, we get climate restoration. I couldn't think of any better story to tell you.
Yeah, a strong narrative, that's what we need. It's quite interesting that you as a climate scientist emphasize the importance of beauty. Why is beauty so important in this narrative?
Okay, when I sort of crashed into this community as a climate scientist, to this community a few years ago of architects, urban planners, designers, and so on, who were, of course, in a way, very suspicious about sort of trained theoretical physicists to enter the debate about urban development and things like that. When I raised this word aesthetics or beauty and so on, I said, oh, leave us alone. We had this debate 100 times and so on. We cannot hear it anymore. Everybody has a different take on beauty and so on. But I give you two arguments why it is so important, and we could talk forever actually about this. Two arguments. One is a fairly obvious one. If you build something in a beautiful way, and not in an ugly way, then people will hesitate to tear it down. So beautiful buildings will be respected, and that means we do not sort of demolish the building, release all the gray energy, and then we have to use it again. So it is just better for the environment. But the deep reason is that beauty is an evolutionary result, because in a way, evolution has taught us to realize, to recognize, and to even feel that a beautiful thing is more functional, actually. If it is, I mean, it's a difficult discussion, but think of the human body, I mean, and that applies for females as well as males. It shouldn't be too thick or too thin, and everybody has an understanding of that. Why? Not because we want to discriminate people, but because in a way evolution has taught us what this two means. And so being functional means that you do not have too much weight and you shouldn't have too little weight, actually. And of course, it's in the eye of the beholder. But in the end, I think evolution has trained us to immediately see sustainability through the terms of beauty. And this does not always apply, but there is a certain instinctive understanding, and our eyes and our ears and so on tell us, our skin tells us, that beauty can be sustainability.
Thanks, John. My last question. For the majority of the world population, Europe is kind of an island of the blissful. So what about the Global South in this debate around the new climate narrative?
No, thanks, Kerstin, for this question, because it's the crucial question. It's the all-important question. I mean, even if the entire European continent would be transformed into a wonderful, climate-positive built environment, it would not save the world. I mean, the continent where most of the things happen that really count now is Africa, which has now 1 billion people and probably will have 2 or 3 billion people by the end of the century. 80 or 90% of all the buildings needed there have not been built yet. So if this goes wrong, if it is built in the ugly, dysfunctional and climate hostile way, which is concrete and steel in a conventional manner, when the carbon budget for humanity will be bust 10 times or so on. And we will not have the slightest chance to keep global warming near 2 degrees. let alone restore it. So it all depends on the Global South, really. And we have honored this, Ursula von der Leyen actually has honored this. We organized Bauhaus Earth together with the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. We organized in June this year, I think, an absolutely outstanding event where world-class architects from the Global South, from the Global North, scientists, faith leaders, creative people came together in Rome, in the Vatican, and the title was Reconstructing the Future for People and Planet, and where it became utterly clear that it is the Global South that needs, in the end, even to lead the movement about the reconstruction of the future by transforming the built environment in a sustainable, in an inclusive, and in a beautiful way.
Thanks, John Schellnhuber, for making it despite your busy schedule. Thanks a lot. Thanks, John. So one highlight follows the next. Our next speaker is Heinrich Arnold, a German top manager and investor passionate about innovation and technology. Today he speaks in his capacity as an EIT governing board member, and he will reflect on the role of EIT in the climate space and the need for systemic innovation to win the fight against global climate change. Mr. Arnold, the stage is yours.
Kirsten, Professor, vielen Dank. It's good to be here with you. Looking forward to everything else we hear today about the new European Bauhaus. The governing board is an independent body of independent people, and I've been invited to share some reflections, and this is what I would love to do, to share my reflections about when I hear new European Bauhaus, reflections about what you said about my CV, where I come from, what I've seen in the past years and decades, and why I think it's a good time to start with such an initiative now. If I was speaking German, you would hear my Bavarian accent immediately. I'm one of these 1.6 new Berliners that came into town in the past 18 years. And that's tremendous and that's massive. Now, what does that have to do with today's event? Not so much, but maybe many things. Berlin underwent a development which I called in one reflective article an innovation miracle. So definitely coming to Berlin in 2004 was something where everybody else was sure he will be back in Munich in 3 weeks from now. So I'm still around here, and what we've perceived was within a decade a so-called innovation miracle. An innovation miracle which happened here, which happens in other places, and it takes not longer than a lifetime. It takes a decade. It takes a decade to do things and achieve things which you might have thought and reflected as unachievable before. When I reflect about this miracle, this innovation miracle of Berlin, and I was actually part of creating a similar one in Israel, in Beersheba, then it takes a couple of ingredients. And it's the ingredient of bringing the right components and the right people and the right capacities and competences together. It's about bringing together competent people from universities, researchers. That's one thing. But they've been around in Berlin before already, and nothing really changed. So what was the difference? You bring in people from industry, because that's actually a big logic, how our world works. So you need to bring in the business logic. And without this, you don't have public-private partnership. You don't have this economic orientation that if the third and the fourth ingredient kick in, which is the notorious investors that say, this is something where I see major returns economically, but also societally, they kick off something that's truly new. This is startups, and that's unicorns. So it makes total sense that there was an influx to Berlin. It makes total sense that EIT consists of 3,400 organizations, And of course, one might think, is this all overhead? Is it bureaucratic? Is it too much? And I think, no, it's just right. You need to bring together these ingredients of the different directions. And if one of these pieces is missing, then you don't have this fundamental change kicking in and taking off. And so when I scrolled through the list of participants of today, I see that many of these aspects are represented. There are also people who think about a second thing currently, and that's part of the answer why now is a good time to take on such a challenge, which honestly I've been aware of already at my Abitur time in 1990, but nothing really changed in the last 30 years. But now it's a bigger chance that something happens, and that's the change from product sale to a service economy. So as long as our economy works on the foundation of selling a thing, which then breaks and needs to be replaced, we'll not get off this track of using too many resources, wasting resources, because things should actually be here to stay. They should become beautiful. We should look at them 100 years later and say, let's renovate them, let's repair them, let's make them stay. And that's a fundamental thing where we have a chance now because of digital feasibility of the digital technologies for two things. Number one, all of a sudden you can actually also build buildings. You can do almost every product as a service. Change from selling it as a one-off to as a service, lifelong, permanent type of business. And this is what I hear also between the lines when I think of the new European Bauhaus. A rigor in thinking of doing pragmatic things, of doing them resource-aware and here to stay. Supported by the chances that we have now of digital technologies, of turning things from one-off to permanent service business. And I know that people in the audience are here who think exactly about this, and I hope also that you find together, and in this sense, I know that the work of the EIT is very relevant to bring together these different competencies, the capabilities, and therefore it's probably okay that we travel for this and increase the footprint, because the impact that we have will be bigger. And that's also part of this rigor, which hopefully stays in our minds as the new European Bauhaus, rigor of thinking pragmatic, thinking about the effect, thinking about making things more relevant wherever we work. Speaking about bureaucracy, administration also for a little moment, it does not necessarily always take government, and maybe Berlin is a good or bad example that it takes the government or not. Berlin developed, and it's unclear to many what the role of government is, will be, but there is one big difference, that everybody who is involved in important processes of freeing them up, certifying them, making them work, approving them, should not put himself in a position, we've never done it before and this is why we'll continue not to do it. Should rather put himself in a position to say, maybe it's a good option and we should really consider this for decentral energy production, for using the gas that's still in our landfills that can produce gas, heat exchangers in the buildings that have not been built in before, and many things which are here on a daily basis that are not coming into place because people have not done it before. It's time to change now. Everybody should think with the Bauhaus rigor of, am I in the way of a potential impact here? So, in that sense, I got a super nice briefing also by the organization. I want to at least name the different knowledge and innovation centers which I think are relevant, and it's all 9 of them. Today we're guest of climate, but there's also a knowledge and innovation center of sustainable energy, of digital, of healthcare, food supply, urban mobility, manufacturing, raw materials, and freshly created for cultural and the creative sector, which we also have here today. So I guess you all agree that these are sectors which are definitely touched by the endeavor that we have in front of us. There will be a concluding event on October 11. It's also, I'm allowed to invite you to join this thing. Online is probably the best in terms of ecological footprint. I'm happy to see you there as part of the community that we all need, that the competence, the economic orientation, the notorious investment, the startup drive, and the societal effect come together. And, you know, let's create a couple of more miracles in the direction of making this world beautiful in the sense of sustainability. Thank you very much.
After around about 52 minutes, the human brain typically goes from a mode of concentration and focus to a mode of relaxation, and you are just wandering away. So I ask you to put your stuff away, get up for a moment, and just do some little stretching. Maybe you grab some apples that are high up on this beautiful tree in the middle of the garden. Yes, Kirsten is already starting to clap. Some of the body just get back some energy. And maybe you also go down deep and find the key that you lost on the floor. And now turn to your neighbor and share a big, warm smile with your person sitting next to you. And if you want, find a new seat, otherwise take your seat. Okay, thank you. Final deep breath. Okay, people waving to each other, that's a good sign. This whole event is also about connection, networking, so just look and watch out for the people you want to connect with. So, what does it take? What does it take to bring the vision behind the new European Bauhaus to life? What do we need from politics, business, arts and culture? What kind of collaboration do we need in future? And how can this vision of the new European Bauhaus play out on the ground? Our three panelists sit exactly in that space. They are kind of bridge builders and go-to persons for the new European Bauhaus in their respective countries. We have a national architect from Sweden, we have an art director from Spain, and a businessman from Denmark. Torben and Rosa, please join me on the stage. And Helena, who got in trouble with German or European mobility, will join us online. Good morning, Helena.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, well, all of you are very accomplished people. And I'm glad that all your accomplishments have been put online. And for all of you interested in learning more about their professional background and roles, you can simply look up online using your QR code. So I will try to focus on the essentials related to the new European Bauhaus when introducing you to our audience. Joining us online from Malmö is Helena Bjarnegård. Helena is Sweden's national architect. It's quite a new position in Sweden, created 2018 to orchestrate activities in Sweden focused at more sustainable construction and more beautiful cities and buildings in the future. So Helena is working with key stakeholders in that planning and building space. She's also heading the Council for Sustainable Cities, where all government representatives that somehow are involved in questions of design and environmental sustainability work together. And finally, she's the Swedish go-to person for the new European Bauhaus. Helena, welcome to our event. Torben.
Thank you.
Klitgaard.
Pretty close.
Practice, I got close, thanks, from Copenhagen, has more than 20 years of experience in the built environment. Torben is now the CEO of BLOX Hub, a non-profit organization that is all about sustainable urbanization. BLOX Hub is three things in one. It's a business matchmaking community, but also a co-working space and research network hub. Through this BLOX Hub organization, Torben tries to bridge architecture, engineering, design, construction, and digitalization in order to develop joint sustainable urbanization initiatives. Therefore, I'm not surprised that you are also the project lead for the new European Lighthouse Demonstrator project Desire. I'm eager to learn more what this Desire is, and you are also the go-to person for the new European Bauhaus in Denmark. Welcome. And we have Rosa Ferré from Spain. Rosa is an artistic director of Matadero, Madrid, which is a center for contemporary art. As part of her work, Rosa explores major social challenges in today's society. She focuses in her research and writing on the articulation of social and political utopias and how they correlate with aesthetic practices. Also eager to learn more about what that means in practice. So thank you very much for coming. I would love to start with you, Helena, and learn a little bit more about your work as a national architect. Maybe that's a great example and inspiration also for other countries. So tell us a little bit more about your work as a national architect and how you can impact the built environment through this position in your country.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here, even if I'm not there with you in person, of course, but I'm happy to be here on the screen. We're building a structure in Sweden. As you said before, 2018, this position was developed, and we got a commission from the government to build a structure among state agencies in Sweden, and also a structure to support cities, communities, and the regions in Sweden. And therefore, we work 12 state agencies together. The infrastructure agency, the planning and building agency, the art agency, the culture heritage agency, and so on. So we hook arm and we support the cities and communities and regions in Sweden so that they can do a real good job in creating sustainable, carefully designed living environments. Mm-hmm. And we're working with financial tools, laws, but also spreading knowledge, networking, and so on.
And how does your work relate to the new European Bauhaus? I wonder, is it a curse or blessing? Does it give you some extra force for your work, or does it complicate your work?
No, it does not complicate it.
Oh,
it gives extra force, actually, because the Swedish goals for architecture, design, culture, heritage, and so on, so also was decided upon in 2018. If you should, make a short version of those goals, you should say sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful. So actually, the Swedish goals for architecture and design have the same values as the European Bauhaus. So the new European Bauhaus is really like a support to us and gives us inspirations and connection and extra power to do actually what we are doing in Sweden already.
So what I hear is that having these shared values and vision gives extra drive to realize your goals. I wonder, it's fantastic to have this work ongoing on a national level. How does it already today trickle down to the ground? Do people in Sweden know about the new European Bauhaus, or is it more a high-level vision?
Some do, some don't. We're on the starting point, but we're doing some projects that are very visual and also, I hope, gives power to the citizen communities and the people in them. So, for example, we have changed the way of working in the state agencies. Before we were on this umbrella cloud level, but we decided to hook arm with 6 municipalities in northern Sweden that really faces large challenges. They're going from shrinking cities to growing cities in a very, very short notice because fossil-free industry is coming in and will employ a lot of people. And they will need to develop the built environment very, very fast. And we made an open call. We talked to them. They wrote cases. We, on a state level, we made an open call. We handed in financial funds and so on, and kind of employed 11 teams of creative people, artists, architects, designers, and so on, to help the citizen communities. And this project is called Visions in the North, and it's kind of a first step on long-term a commitment to work together with those 6 cities in the northern part of Sweden. So really trying to go down from the umbrella level to go down to the ground where things really happen and support on the ground with the help of the best talented creative people in Sweden.
Torben, while Helena is working on a national level as an architect, you try to catalyze sustainable urbanization through business and networks. So why do you do what you do with BLOX Hub?
Well, I think I do it because that's the only way to move innovation forward, to be honest. I think we heard some great introductions already today, not the least from John Schellnhuber, talking about the integrated approach. I think the only approach for the future is the integrated approach. And that is the reason why we set up BLOX Hub in Copenhagen some 4 years ago, in order to reach out to a wide variety of stakeholders within the built environment in order to get them to work closer together, to facilitate change, to facilitate innovation across science, across business, across public institutions. When we talk about business, thanks for the introduction about the businessman from Copenhagen. I've never heard that before. Thank you so much. No, but talking about business, reaching out to both corporates and startups, enormous stuff to learn from both corporates and startups, and we'll hear that a little later today. But the point being that there is no other approach than the integrated approach, integrated thinking. And I think that comes together in the new European Bauhaus initiative very, very beautifully. But we'll come back to that, of course.
Yeah, how does your work with BLOX Hub relate to the new European Bauhaus?
Well, one-to-one relation, in the sense that getting together people from a wide variety of domains within the overall domain of the built environment, getting designers, anthropologists, artists, construction companies, planners, investors, etc., facility managers, to get together at the same table, trying to define what is the irresistible way of working in this domain. I think that is the purpose, and through the initiative taken by the EU on the new European Bauhaus, we can actually push that agenda. I think the beauty of the new European Bauhaus, apart of course from the DNA, you might argue what is the new European Bauhaus, and I would say it is a wide variety of ideas and solutions. But I think it's kept together with the notion, just as we've heard, that sustainability, circularity, aesthetics, beauty, and of course inclusion are three, that was 5, but three main sort of strings of DNA. I think that keeps the ideas together. And in Denmark, when we opened up our eyes for the new European Bauhaus movement, we saw, okay, how can we turn that into creating a better world, of course, but how can we do that? Well, we can do that by trying to facilitate the variety of stakeholders coming together to improve the built environment, to combat the climate change through the built environment, in order for them to come up with a common vision and mission of creating desirable solutions, irresistible end solutions. And that is what our new European Bauhaus project is all about.
So what I take away, it's really the integrated approach, the joint mission, vision, values that then holds together all the different initiatives that are popping up all over Europe. Can you tell us a little bit more about this Desire, the Lighthouse project that is part of the new European Bauhaus, and how this very concrete translates the vision into reality?
Of course, and that's where it gets interesting, because the more concrete you get, the more people you can get on board, because if it makes sense in the eyes of the people, you can create the movement. And I think that is what the new European Bauhaus is all about, going back to the original Bauhaus ideas of more than 100 years ago. And when John Schellnhuber is saying that he, back in 2019, reflecting on what is the new movement, then I think he came up with a brilliant solution and set of suggestions for Ursula von der Leyen. I think what we are doing here is to try to create what I would call small moves. I love the quotation by a brilliant professor from San Francisco called John Hagel, when he's saying, small moves smartly made can set big things in motion. And I think we really, really have the opportunity to show that through the 5 Lighthouse demonstrator projects. Luckily, the Danish Initiative, which is an international consortia consisting of 5 different countries, apart from Denmark, we're talking about Latvia, Italy, Slovenia, and Holland. Those 5 countries have identified 8 different projects focusing on 3 major issues within the vision of creating and designing an irresistible circular society. First and foremost, we focus on inclusion and circular renovation of social housing. We have identified a variety of projects throughout the 5 different countries, throughout the 8 different projects focusing on that. Point number 1. Point number 2, systemic transformation of neighborhoods, which is also a sub-theme within our project. And lastly, which was always also tapped upon, I think, by John Schellnhuber when he talked about reforesting the city. We are doing that in a smaller scale, much smaller scale. We talk about reconciling cities with nature, and we have identified a series of projects doing that. So altogether, we're trying to learn from one another across the 5 countries, trying to innovate together, trying to share ideas, etc. Hopefully coming up with a set of principles by the end of the 2-year period, being input for the future, for the CO2 emissions cities to 2030, for local building codes, for standards, for building regulations, for education schemes in schools and architecture schools, design schools, etc., for new finance models, etc., etc. The point being that around the table you have the different stakeholders within the project or within the built environment. And if you have a common shared goal of ending up with an irresistible end result, then you've hit the jackpot.
Around this table, we also have different stakeholders with the same vision, with the same goal. So, Rosa, what role do art and culture play in our attempt to transform the built environment, make it more sustainable, more inclusive, and more beautiful?
It's working, yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's an opportunity because almost never art, nor as architecture or design is involved in these conversations. And I think that it's important to say that artists are radical agents for change, not decorators. And they need to be involved. I'm the radical defensor of the interest and the importance of involving artists because they are they do other questions. They open the questions and they work as mediators, and also they have methodologies that can open the discourse and can work in this difficult process. And as this challenge of climate change needs more than anything a cultural change, as Kirsten said, no? Accompanying the technological change, the political changes, etc. No? I think that as in my experience, art can do much more than people think.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Artists are radical agents for change.
It is.
Wow. So how are you in your work? Artist for radical change?
Matadero is a center of production, a center of culture. It's a huge place. It used to be a slaughterhouse, and now it's a super vivid and full space for creation. And I decided to, it's a personal decision as a curator, to develop a line of work devoted to climate change directly. So we started thinking in a garden, because Matadero is in the south of Madrid, and in summer it's terrible, the hot that you can experience there. And we start working with the university, the Polytechnic University, with many different interdisciplinary researchers and specialists with the area of environmental issues of the city council, because Matadero is a place founded by the city council, and with a team of artists in thinking how to do a garden, cyber garden that we call, that could be
cyber garden.
Yeah, that could help us to down the temperatures and to be a place for doing nothing and for pleasure.
For relaxing
and
pleasure.
And this is our kind of project. It's just an example. And then from that, we with these partners, we organize something that is called the Mutant Institute for Environmental Narratives. And everything is about narratives, as you can imagine. We need to imagine together, and the artists have a central role, core role in this. We need a new imaginarium, not dystopic, about how can all together work in this process of change. Mm-hmm. So, and we work with activists, with many kind of researchers, artists that you don't know if they are journalists, artists, they are designers or thinkers or whatever. No, we work in a very broad concept of artist practice.
In our prep call, you mentioned that you try to learn, for example, from insects, new ways of collaboration. And I really like the message that you gave, that artists ask questions, they bring new methodologies. Can you give us a very concrete example?
They force you to do things in a strange way that can be very productive, because otherwise all we follow the inertias of our commodity, of our comfort. And this is a project for a girl from Taiwan that proposes a game. The game is the basis of our methodology in the Institute. So all the workshops or the things that we do to relate each other need to follow patterns of behavior that are not human. Because and this has a lot to do with the European Bauhaus. I think that the concept of mutualism with other species and mutualism between all us and mutualism between all the disciplines is one of our main ideas. So you are forced to relate and to do this game and to work in a way that you are not used. And from that, we change the questions, we change the solutions, we change many things. And this kind of provocative methodologies is part of our work. Other part of our work that is very important, I think, is our work with the communities. And we work through artists as mediators in the city, with many, many different communities, of course, from schools to migrants to many different people. And I think that when you involve people, a community or group of people in an artistic communitary project, this experience is much stronger than transformative that many digital that I love proposals. So I think that this thing that we do that because we have many departments devoted to that is one of the most important things for the change in the city in terms of culture.
Now we got a first impression of activities related to the new European Bauhaus in different countries, in different areas that are part of the change. And I guess that's part of the beauty of the new European Bauhaus, that it is so participatory and people like you can relate to that vision and integrate it in the work that's already out there. On the other hand, the challenge is that everyone has a slightly different perspective on what this animal new European Bauhaus is. So the question to you, and let me start with Helena, like in one sentence, what is the new European Bauhaus for you?
Possibility for change and the possibility to explore what sustainable living environments can be in the future and how those really can change the society as a whole.
Possibility for change, for a more sustainable built environment and future. Torben, in one sentence, what is the new European Bauhaus for you?
Can I be allowed to identify a very, very long sentence?
You are not German.
Okay, I'll keep it short. Well, I think basically it presents an opportunity. I think to me the new European Bauhaus is a framework for focusing on the common good. For decades throughout the industrial society we have been taught and practiced the law of the business of business is business. I think we have fundamentally changed that. Or the NEB, New European Bauhaus, is a fundamental possibility of changing that. Now, the business of business is much more than business. You have to think along the ways of doing what you do for the common good rather than for yourself. And that is, for me, a fundamental mind shift. And I think the NEB is a framework for thinking along those new lines. What can I do for you? What can I do to add to the equation? What can I contribute with rather than what's in it for me? I think the NEB provides a framework for doing that. Not saying that we are going to succeed tomorrow, but it's a framework for thinking and presenting that fundamental mind shift. That was a long sentence.
That was a very long sentence, but the nice thing is that I also heard possibility for change. You were just referring it sort of to your area of work and more the change of business mindsets and practices. Rosa, so what is it for you? What is the DNA of the new European Bauhaus in your view?
In one sentence for me could be like a living organism.
Living organism?
Fighting for survive. I think that this is, for me, the new European Bauhaus. And in other sentences, it could be a pact no, and a path to design can say a future together based on desire. I think that this idea of beauty has to do with desire and to imagine new scenarios for pleasure. Otherwise, it will not work.
From concept, from DNA back to reality, what are the most inspiring changes that you have seen in your countries in relation to or due to this new European Bauhaus movement? Who has one? Torben.
Well, let me start. I think coming back to what's it all about, it's not just about making money, it's about doing something for the greater good, for the common good. Making money is just an effect of your activities, basically. Well, just putting that a little further, I think what we have seen discussing the new European Bauhaus in Denmark and throughout the consortium I was talking about before, this is presenting what I would call a new license to operate. Especially for the companies involved in these projects, the new European Bauhaus, with the insistence of thinking along the lines of integrated approach, integrating inclusion, aesthetics and sustainability, and hopefully a much wider definition of sustainability than we've seen so far. I think that presents the realization that if I have to operate as a business, I need to open up my eyes for integrating much more aspects of doing business. So this is definitely about a license to operate. If I do not have clear solutions in my portfolio as a business, as an architect, as a designer, etc., focusing on aesthetics, on beauty, on inclusion, to be honest, I'm out of business in a few years. That mindset shift is gradually beginning to grow. As I said, we're not there, but we have started a movement with the NEB discussing these issues. And more companies, where I come from, are opening their eyes for the fact that there is a new license to operate, which has to be much broader, taking much more aspects of doing business than yesterday.
Any example, Helena or Rosa, want to share from your works? An example where the change that's happening is becoming very tangible and real?
Sustainability is, of course, social sustainable, environmental sustainable, and economically sustainable, but we often talk about it as environmental sustainability. We often talk about sustainability as something that has to do with engineering and technical issues of different kinds. But the new European Bauhaus really made us believe and made us understand, and not just us in the culture creative sector, made a lot of people, even politicians, understand that the soft values, that beautiful for your minds, bodies and soul, is so important to achieve this sustainable society, and that the creative culture sector needs to be at the table where we make the solutions for the future. Otherwise, it will just be functional and not beautiful for your minds, bodies and souls. And really, this narrative made a lot of people understand the value of the not so measurable, beautiful, and what kind of impact it has on sustainability and our society. So it's a really, really important initiative to see sustainable development of our whole society as a whole, and not just as technical issues that you can measure.
Building on that, if in 5 years from now the new European Bauhaus has collapsed, what went wrong based on your experience and the roadblocks you already see? So what could happen that in 5 years from now the new European Bauhaus doesn't exist anymore?
If we see the new European Bauhaus as a silo and not as opportunity to hook arm and really, really become multidisciplinary and multi-level thinking. So if the European Bauhaus becomes a silo, then it will not succeed. But if we can use European Bauhaus to hook arm over all borders, countries, layers, and multidisciplinary, then it cannot fail.
Good. Optimism. Torben.
Well, I echo Helena's point on that. I think, well, personally, I think it won't fail, but I think it's important to note that the new European Bauhaus are thousands of different things. It's not a law. You cannot look it up in books. It's something that we believe in, and I think believing in things is much more strong and forceful than sort of basic power games through standardizations and laws, which is important, of course, but the belief. And then I think it taps into this fundamental mind shift I was talking about, which is already going on, the notion that we need to integrate our thinking, the notion that we need to reach out to not like-minded people in order to create innovative solutions for the challenges to come. And I think, I think maybe one risk would be if us in this room, in this conference, having having the obligation of being in the front of doing things within the European Bauhaus. If we don't succeed coming up with concrete solutions as showcases, for example, the 5 lighthouse demonstrators, there might be a risk of people saying, what was that exactly? Yeah. But I think the point being that small things, smartly made, can set big things in motion, is that we will identify bits and pieces, so to speak. We will identify projects throughout Europe that actually exemplifies the soul of the new European Bauhaus. That can be put forward in order to create that movement, and I am so certain and so sure that we will succeed on that voyage.
So basically you are saying people need concrete examples, they need to see, touch, in order then and feel that their mindset shift goes into the right direction and there's some momentum created. Rosa, what are the kind of roadblocks that you are seeing, or some risks?
Yeah, I think that, at least in my context, the problems are always bureaucracy and fragmentation in decisions. So I think that if the European Bauhaus is a force to change policies, this is the way of winning. If not, if we are just projects, I think that it will be a failure.
Mm-hmm. So the change does not only have to be
I think that
but also in
it's
policy
a
and
strength, a call for action, a movement that needs to change policies, at least in my context. And we need to do shortcuts to achieve things, otherwise we will never arrive to our goals.
Well, I totally agree. I was just talking about, or thinking about this. This is not a top-down approach. This is not a bottom-up approach. This is a top-up approach. And I think that's the value and the beauty of the NEB, because we have to showcase what this is about. We have to provide examples of what the new European Bauhaus can present, how it can integrate stakeholders, etc., etc. But if the result of that, if the result of the showcase is not implemented into European standards, European regulation, building codes, etc., etc., then there is a big risk of having failed. Yeah. But as I said, I'm sure that we'll come up with solutions that can actually be lifted up into the sort of regulatory infrastructure.
A top-up approach, and that's why it's so important to have these discussions when also state representatives are about to get inspired by the concrete examples to also then replicate possibly in their states. We are almost coming to an end with our panel discussion, but let me ask you a final question on a positive note. And you can take a moment to think about, and then ideally respond in one sentence. If the new European Bauhaus turns out to be a smashing success, how will we notice in 25 years from now? If the new European Bauhaus turns out to be a smashing success, how will we notice in 25 years from now?
Would you go or should I go? Or Helena? We're three on stage.
I think that nobody will talk about that if we achieve. Yeah, nobody will remember the European Bauhaus because we will be in other situation that we don't need to talk about this. No, it could be part of our reality. We don't talk about the things that are usual in our life. No, it will be amazing.
Helena?
Okay. Well, I guess that we will have beautiful, inclusive, and sustainable living environments all over Europe. And we will also have a climate among us where we invite, where we listen to each other, and where we work together on all levels, multidisciplinary, to continue to develop, because nothing ends. And we will continue to develop those living environments forever. And we learned how to.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Helena. Torben.
Well, hopefully, ultimately, we'll see the CO2 emissions decrease, just as we heard from Schellnhuber, which is maybe not that realistic anyway, but hopefully that will be part of the side effects. I think generally, to me, the movement of the people of Europe is extremely important, integrating the ideas of demanding beauty, demanding aesthetics, demanding inclusion in the processes within the built environment, the processes where we renovate, build, etc., etc. So, if people are thinking along the lines of demanding beautiful solutions, beautiful housing, inclusive processes in a sustainable way, then I think we have created the mindset shift, which to me is the most important thing, because that drives behavior, and that drives change in the long run.
So let's change mindsets together and make sure that this DNA across the different countries of Europe gets more strong. And thank you very much for sharing your expertise. And for all of you interested in the country initiatives, here we have the 3 go-to person in the countries for the new European Bauhaus. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Now it's pitch time, and I guess we need a moment to clear the stage. But in terms of expectation, get excited. We are going to learn more about 6 initiatives that are supported by EIT. 6 initiatives that will give you a glimpse of how social and environmental innovation in the built environment can look like in the future. And I totally understand if you feel the urge to get a drink or to go to the bathroom. Be quick if you want to have a bio break now. And let's make sure that in a few minutes, when our pitch presenters are ready on stage, I can hand over to EIT Director Michael Kern, who will get us into the groove in a moment. Bitte nicht alle.
Soll ich es ausprobieren? Oder? Ist okay? Ja. Ja, klar. Mhm. Ach so.
If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap thrice. Okay, so please take your seat and full attention to EIT Director Martin Kern, who will get us into the groove for the pitch session.
Thank you very much, Kerstin. And first of all, I would like to thank EIT Climate-KIC for organizing this event on the new European Bauhaus right in the middle of INNOVEIT Weeks. And I think it's very fitting that INNOVEIT Weeks comes to Berlin right in the middle of it. And in a sense, it is also for the new European Bauhaus to come home. As we heard from John Schellnhuber this morning, it's not only 100 years since Bauhaus concept as such was launched and created in Germany, but also, of course, that the ideas that underpin the new European Bauhaus emerge from here. So I think this is a really nice touch. We already had events all over Europe, in Stockholm, in Budapest, in Warsaw, in Tallinn, and Paris, among others. And INNOVEIT Weeks will culminate on the 11th of October in Brussels, where we will also have our EIT Awards. But this session, which we come to in a minute, is about the actual startups, initiatives that the EIT has supported since 2021 in the new European Bauhaus area. I like to just make 2 points here and pick up on 2 issues that could be relevant as a scene setter for this pitching session. First of all, John Schellnhuber told us earlier today how the new European Bauhaus come about. And I think it's interesting probably for you to understand or to learn how the new European Bauhaus came to the EIT or the EIT to the new European Bauhaus, and why that is a good link. And then secondly, of course, what the EIT actually does, what EIT supports in practice, what are the type of programs, activities that we have, from which the fantastic pitches that you will hear in a few minutes have emerged from. So starting with the first point, how did the EIT come to the new European Bauhaus and vice versa, and why is this a good match? First of all, the EIT is also based on two important principles that are extremely close, if not identical to some degree, of those of the new European Bauhaus. First of all, we believe that for the big societal challenges that we face, and of course climate change is one of them, but can it be health, can it be sustainable energy, can it be others? It is not enough to make small changes, and also, as was several times said by the previous speakers, it is not always those persons that may have created an issue that can resolve it by small adjustments. What you really need is innovations. You need some disruptive innovations, and you need something that scales up across Europe or even globally. So you cannot only solve the big challenges in a vacuum, in a sense. That is one of the big ideas behind the EIT. And how do you get to such type of impact? Such type of impact you get by working together, by not just working together in one place, in one country, but really across Europe and globally. That's why we have Europe's largest innovation ecosystem, and that's why we have created now 9 knowledge and innovation communities to tackle these challenges and to really work together and bring the ideas, bring the stakeholders from the science, from the research, from the business, together with the investors, together with universities, so that those ideas can really grow and make an impact that allows us to solve the big challenges that we face in Europe and globally. So that's the first commonality. And the second one is that innovation doesn't also just appear, but it always happens locally. And that's the second powerful idea behind the EIT, that to have ideas emerge, you need to foster them locally and then, of course, give them whatever support they need, whether that's provided nationally or across Europe or internationally. And that, of course, is another big commonality with the new European Bauhaus, that in the end it's about citizens, it's about local initiatives, but also it is about the collective community getting together and working together across boundaries, across disciplines, because that's how the new ideas can emerge, and that's how innovation can emerge that then really make a difference, that really allow us to reach those ambitious targets. And of course, the background to that from a European perspective right now is the European Green Deal and the digitalization, the two big priorities that we are facing. Now, coming to why the EIT, right from the beginning, when the new European Bauhaus idea, vision and concept was announced, said this is an idea we need to be part of. And then how can we do that? How can we as EIT contribute to this idea? First of all, we already have Europe's largest innovation ecosystem. So we are present all over Europe. EIT has centers, hubs, co-location centers, such as here in Berlin, all across Europe. So such a new concept like the new European Bauhaus, which is visionary, which is a movement, immediately can find a home, immediately can find places, practitioners that can pick up those concepts. And of course, it is a concept that goes all across at that moment it was still 8, by now it's 9 knowledge and innovation communities. So EIT Climate-KIC taking a lead, but also EIT Food, EIT Urban Mobility, EIT Digital, and EIT Manufacturing immediately said, this is a concept where we can bring value beyond what we are already doing. We can open some of our programs, but we can also together have an exchange, and we can trigger new ideas, and you will see those ideas in a few minutes that can make a difference and that bring that concept of the new European Bauhaus to life and create a fertile ground for that vision. So we started immediately in 2021 to kind of pick up those ideas and say, let's put them into action and let's try certain activities that can really implement the new European Bauhaus. Because in the end, that's what EIT is always about, to find those innovations, to find those ideas, to support them with whatever is needed. It's often not just money to get an idea growing, but it's partners, it is customers, it is expertise, and then different organizations to work together. So that is what we have been doing right from the beginning, and we have allocated 5 million euros for that purpose to try out, to experiment different type of initiatives. The first one is citizen engagement, back to one of the 2 big themes that I mentioned in the beginning, really providing funding up to 375,000 euros to support local initiatives. You will hear from some of them that increase citizen engagement, involve communities all over Europe, everywhere where EIT is already present, in the design of sustainable public spaces. That has immediately triggered some amazing projects, for example, for schools in Barcelona, or to work together with elderly to develop climate-proof heritage sites in Pula. So amazing initiatives came forward, and already after 1.5 years, if this is the moment to look back, we can say that the citizen engagement initiatives that have been triggered have come on a really fertile ground and really push the nerve that delivers fantastic ideas that, if workable in one place, then can be transferred, can be disseminated all across Europe. The second one is a venture booster. This is, again, EIT core business, so to find startups, to find ideas that stand out, that are the best in Europe, and to bring those ideas out in competitions, and then the most interesting, the most innovative ideas get supported with funding, 50,000 euros, but of course also with the whole network of the EIT, with the industry, with the universities, with others, which can help then these companies, these startups to grow, to accelerate their growth, and to make a big success and impact. And it's not in vain that out of the EITs, over 2,000 startups that have been supported, by now 7 of them have reached the unicorn status. So in the field of the new European Bauhaus, such type of game changers have been awarded. You will see some of them. A great example, for example, from our Venture Booster program is algal tree of Kianos, which converts CO2 into plant feed. Or another startup supported is VePa, which is about vertical parking solutions, which again can really bring the new European Bauhaus concept in life in crowded cities and make a difference for greener and more sustainable cities. The third initiative, which we have supported, is the EIT's Jump Starter. That's not a new initiative for the new European Bauhaus, but it's an existing program. It's an award-winning program from the EIT that helps at the very early stage, ideas emerging from students, emerging from groups of people coming out of studies or from other areas in Central and Eastern Europe in particular, so in the countries where there is less opportunities for innovators and startups to get support, to enter into a competition where they not only can get the prize from the EIT after going through local, national, and then European finals, but where they can also get the type of knowledge, how to pitch, how to learn about intellectual property right, how to access finance, that even those who may not win the award at the end of the journey have strengthened their company, have strengthened their idea, and also have validated their idea. So that's the second initiative that we supported. And then the fourth and last one, the Jump Starter was already the third, is hackathons for the new European Bauhaus. So since actually 2021, but even this year, especially right now, between September and October 22, EIT is hosting 6 hackathons. And what are these? These are local events, condensed events, where in cities across Europe, in this case 6 major cities, which are already part of the EIT community, startups, students, NGOs, researchers, scientists come together and develop concepts, ideas, reconnecting with nature, regaining a sense of belonging, and developing the type of ideas that can ultimately bring the new European Bauhaus to life. So this is where we started. These are the first 2 years. These are the first 5 million euros. But of course, the whole concept of the new European Bauhaus means we should evolve from there. We should grow, we should try new things. And for that, you will hear at the end of the pitching session one possibility where this concept could be taken to a whole new level. And this is in our new innovation community on culture and creativity. So I'm delighted that at the end of the pitching session, Bernd Fesel, who is the interim CEO, will present that new community. And I think bringing together that new community with the new European Bauhaus initiatives is a fantastic opportunity here as well. So now I think I talk enough, because really what speaks for itself will be the pitches by the startups and the initiatives that EIT has supported. And with that, I'm looking forward as much as you to hear their pitches. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm Esther. I'm really excited to be here in behalf of my team. It is Jebbia's team. And now I want to introduce you our project, starting with a question for you. Have you ever been in Sicily? Yeah? Have you ever been on a rooftop there? Of course, from there you can see amazing landscape, right? But, there is a but, with some awful spots. Like that one. In those photos, you can see gray or blue plastic-made objects that are water tanks. And in Sicily, and also in many other countries like Malta, like Tunisia, our rooftops are completely covered by them. Why? The answer is one: global warming. The consequences of global warming are desertifications, droughts, and our cities are facing the big problem of water scarcity. Just to give you a number, in Sicily, the areas at risk of desertifications are 70%. 70%, and it is an increasing process. So, of course, these objects are necessary, as so many other urban objects that we used to see in our cities. But if they are necessary and they solve a problem, they contribute to create another problem. Just think about our cities. Our architecture is part of our cultural heritage. And these objects make our city aesthetically degraded. So, with the awareness that the details can make the difference, our starting point was: how can we redevelop our territory, requalify our territory? And the solution that we found is Jebbia. Jebbia is a modular structure made up of recycled materials and a green cover made by plants, of course, aimed at hiding the technical, urban, ugly elements of our cities, and giving our cities their original beauty, with a plus: the high positive environmental impact, due, of course, to the power of plants to absorb CO2. So the strength of our project are sustainability, of course, aesthetics, and accessibility. Not only because it is affordable, but because it is co-designed with the final users. Jebbia is made on final users' needs. Now we are about to create the first prototype, and we are expected to enter in the Italian market by June 2023. So now you know our project. How can you talk about our project, our idea to your friends, to your neighbors? Just with very few questions. Would you put a chair and relax nearby an object like that? Or maybe would you rather stand next to beautiful plants? Would you take pictures of gray landscapes? Or maybe you prefer to have a memory of a green cities? I have no doubt. So we are Jebbia's team. We dream of our city as greener, livable, beautiful. And starting with small details, we are shaping the first modular three-dimensional garden. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Zsófia Gira, and I'm coming from Budapest, and I'm very glad to be here on this wonderful Friday, the 23rd of September in Berlin. And I also would like to start with a question. Just raise, please, the hands if you still remember the summer 2022. Maybe it was not so long ago, maybe you went for vacation on the mountains, on the sea. I do remember I went for an amazing 9 days bike tour, but unfortunately I also remember how it was returning from this tour on the city and trying to survive the remaining 2 months in Budapest between 35, 38 degrees. I remember also. Summer in my childhood was a period that I was waiting for it, but lately it became a frightening phenomenon. And by 2050, 50,000 of annual deaths are projected in Europe, mostly in urban areas. So I think we can agree that there is a need for systemic and transformative changes with huge efforts that requires many money and time. But there is also need, maybe even more need, to have local initiatives that are coming from the grassroots, and that want to tackle heat waves in a way that can help the residents to improve adaptivity and to increase the heat comfort. Our project, CoolCo, is concerned by climate justice, and in our focus, the target groups are vulnerable groups such as low-income household people, people with diseases, elderly people, children, women, immigrant people. And our aim is to guarantee them a possibility to survive in the summer. So actually I told why we are working and how we are working, and now I would like to speak about what we are doing. We implement small-scale and modular structures to the public spaces. These structures offer shade, water access, and sitting possibilities that can be important for these people. These structures are easily adjustable, so it can fit to strategic points, sidewalks, and the already existing infrastructure in the city. But why are we using public spaces for that? I don't know how much you are familiar with the rules of volleyball. I have been training for 20 years so far, and I had a trainer once who told me the most important part of volleyball is the beginning, is the serve, this is the service, the first touch. And why? Because with the first touch, you can already gain a point without putting there any more efforts, without losing your energy. You can make profit, actually. Public spaces, in my logic, is the same. Without putting there a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of money, we can have nice impacts that can really improve the life of people. The other pillar of our initiative is based on co-production between local stakeholders, residents, and experts. It's important, and we have more aim with them. One is education, and the other one is democratization. It's important, and we truly believe in empowerment, and that with empowerment of these local residents, other decisions in the society can be improved also. So I would have my last question for these 5 minutes. Is CoolCo about heat adaptation? Yeah, for sure. But definitely not exclusively. Is climate change an environmental problem? For sure. But definitely not inclusively. So this is how we work, and I was speaking more or less 5 minutes about CoolCo. But if I had only 10 seconds, I would have said that we are shaping Europe in order to be sustainable, even more beautiful, and we are doing it together. So thank you very much for having us in the new European Bauhaus community.
Hello. Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Chiara Scertomà. I'm an assistant professor in political and social geography at the University of Turin. And the project I'm going to present today is called the Orto della SME, which in Italian means garden of the SME, that is the School of Management and Economics at the University of Turin, as I say. And the university itself, the building is the one you see in the background of the main picture. Actually, the project is a urban regeneration project in one of the darkest cities in the north of Italy, which is Turin, which is a very vibrant place, but at the same time is quite grey, and is a post-industrial city which absolutely needs regeneration, especially in the urban fringes. And this project has been conceived as a way for restoring the garden, the abandoned garden, which is just around the School of Management and Economics. And it's just 50 square meter garden, so it's quite small. But this is at the crossroad between different areas of the city, because this is located in a former blue-collar area, living area, where the main production plants of the city were based a century ago, we can say. And it's at the same time the place where the city center ends and starts the migrant location area. So it's a very interesting location, because at the same time it's also owned by the city but not cared for by the city. So it absolutely needed some work, and we tried to do it by involving people in the city and in the university, of course, starting from students, but not only students, also people from local association, to plan together what we want to have there, and we decided for a container garden, and also to clean up the area, which was quite damaged and quite polluted, together, of course, with some professionals. And then we started to plant and to grow vegetables. But the point, of course, is not just having vegetables, which you can access from the market, sometimes for a cheaper price, but the point is doing it together and finding a space where people can collaborate. So absolutely, what we got from this experience, which is still ongoing, it's just 1 year that the garden is set up, is a sort of positive contamination and cross-fertilization, because people from different parts of the city, of course, but also different parts of the country, and some people from abroad, collaborated with us, and we have also people of different ages working together. So you have people, elderly people from a neighborhood allotment garden working with our students, and this is quite interesting and quite funny because they have very peculiar way of interacting together. And at the same time, we also are trying to find and to invent with students different way to enjoy open space together, or to have a teaching session outside of the closed room of the university. As far as possible, because it's quite cold in Turin. And we have, of course, to find a way for sharing what we produce and have a moment for party and for enjoying together the pleasure of company. So the project is still going on, and we can say it was a success in terms of mediatic impact. So we have been interviewed by national television, and we had lots of media reports on the newspapers or local association that wrote about it. So we have been contacted by thousands of different people interested in working with us. And also, there is an interesting future plan, because we want to expand the garden and take other areas just around the university building, and we want to do it by recreating social economy relationships in the neighborhood by using civic blockchain application and a sort of virtual local currency, creating a sort of virtual local currency for producing and exchanging the vegetables in the garden. But what I consider a success as well was a very tiny event that happened to me on a Sunday afternoon in the garden. I was alone with my daughter, which is portrayed there, and we were just digging and cleaning up. And the student from the south of Italy, coming from the south of Italy, from Sicily, so a very sunny region, came there, and it was quite gray as usual. And he said, "Oh, you are the professor that started the project." I said, "Yeah, but together with some colleagues of mine." Thank you very much, because this place reminds me of my grandfather's vegetable garden. And he was almost crying, and he sat there and said, "When I come here, I feel home, I feel happy." What else? Thank you.
Hey everybody. Imagine that this light, which is shining here, actually being powered by the tree next to this building. And on one moment, the lights turn off. Oh shit, it's actually happening. So what shall we do, guys? I mean, maybe we should go check that tree out, maybe give it a bit more of water or nutrition or love. Because if that is our energy source, we should take care of it in order to turn on our lights, our electricity source, right? Maybe it sounds a bit crazy and like an Avatar movie I'm talking about. But it's actually already happening right here, right now in front of you. This is the Living Light lamp, which is the first lamp in the world which is completely powered by the plant inside. And the only way to turn on this light is actually by giving it a very, very lovely stroke. Because how better we take care of our nature, how more energy it will provide us back. And this is just one plant. And actually, this technology we can apply at all our plants around us. And in order to show that, we actually designed a park application where the living plants inside a park we can use as an energy source, the Living Light Park. And this is the first pilot we already did in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, where we are vested as our startup. And how that works is actually you walk through this park and little lights will twinkle around you. They kind of follow you through and kind of lead your way through the park. Crazy, right? But it is there. So if you're in the Netherlands, if you're in Rotterdam, definitely going to visit it. And how this works, it's not just magic, it's also science. Because our company, Innova, combines nature, science, and design in order to make this kind of magical applications. And it's by the photosynthesis process of the plants. Because during this process, the plants actually produce nutrition for themselves to grow, but a large part of that nutrition the plant doesn't need and actually releases it through the roots into the soil. Kind of glucose, you can see. And naturally occurring bacteria, which are living around these roots, they eat this kind of glucose, and during that digestion process, they release electrons. And these electrons, we are able to capture with this technology without harming the ecosystem. And the amazing thing is that these microbes, these bacteria, don't sleep. So they are actually producing 24/7 electricity. So we're not depending if the sun shines or the wind blows, it's continuously going on. And it's the first CO2 negative energy source since the plant is actually capturing the CO2 for us. And as a bonus effect, which is very nice, is that it is reducing methane gases at the same time. It is actually called the plant microbial fuel cell technology. And it's a very, very scalable technology. And in order to scale this, you can imagine what kind of enormous impact it can make if we make plants part of our energy mix. Because nature will literally get a higher economical value, so we will start making more place for green. And by making more place for green, we can also increase the biodiversity and decrease greenhouse gas emissions. So it's literally the greenest energy source on this planet to light up our environment. And because the lights are only on when you are there in the park, when you are present, it's giving you a feeling of safety, but it's not harming the biodiversity, because it's actually dark when there's nobody there, and it's very little twinkle lights. Or contributing to the light pollution we have. And it's not just actually about lighting or about an energy source. It's so much more than that. Because in this way, we will make nature not used as a free object anymore, but we actually are going to see it as a collaboration partner. Because actually we are part of nature, we are part of this ecosystem, and that is exactly what we need to realize and where we need to go back to. And technology and science can help us today to fix this kind of thinking, these problems, this technology. So, in order to actually go to this next step, because this pilot we did in Rotterdam, we learned a lot, and we need to improve a lot. So we are searching at the moment for innovative clients, innovative organizations, which wants to co-develop and implement this technology with us together. Because only together we can learn, improve it, and even make it more accessible for everybody. And not just produce lights from it, but much more than that. So together, we can make a giant, sustainable power plant of the Amazon rainforest. Thank you very much. And stroke the plant later on when you're here. Give it lots of love, okay?
Hello, everybody. I'm Mihai, and I'm here on behalf of Urbanize Hub, a community of passionate people and experts that strive to spread awareness on the importance of sustainable urban development and implement projects on the matter. And today I'm here to tell you a story from Lugoj. Lugoj is a small city, 40,000 inhabitants in western Romania. But there is a catch about Lugoj. It has a very interesting story. Lugoj was crazy about bikes. For quite a while, it was nicknamed the city of bikes. It had huge ownership and usage rates for bikes. It founded the first bike club in the country back in the 1890s, when bikes were cool for the first time. And you can even see there in the upper corner a picture from a factory in the 60s where the predominant urban infrastructure was actually bike parking. Okay, so let's fast forward to today. We still have a huge percentage of people from particularly higher age groups that are actually using the bike as a primary means of transportation. However, in another project that we're conducting in the city, we were conducting a public engagement process, and there was a contrast that really stuck with us. I usually grab a cab because it's more comfortable. This is a statement from a 12-year-old child that was going to school and was grabbing a cab for like 5 minutes every day to school. You can imagine that this is problematic, right, from the perspective that we're here today. But how can we flip this? How could we turn this around? And then last year, when the EIT Cross-KIC New European Bauhaus Call for Citizen Engagement and Public Transformation was launched, we saw an opportunity, right? We asked ourselves, okay, how can we engage children in co-designing and sustainably transforming the urban public space and encourage them to uptake sustainable urban mobility, active urban mobility patterns? And then, how to design sustainable living models and co-participation models true to the New European Bauhaus values. We based our concept on 3 key points. First of all, establish trust and connection between stakeholders, mainly public authorities and children, as a way to induce long-term transformation. Base ourselves on the local context and on the local legacy of Lugoj in order to create and foster this identity to be proud about using a bike and actually using active urban mobility patterns. And then give a voice to the children of today so they become the urban leaders of tomorrow, right? And that's how Lugoj for Kids by Kids was actually born, right? How did we implement the first pilot project? We took a group of 15 to 20 students from a school in Lugoj, and we engaged them in a participatory urbanism exercise. Through GDPR-friendly geo-tracking, we actually gathered input and data on the issues that were facing on their bike commute from school to different locations in the city that were relevant for them. Based on the input, we organized a series of workshops where we co-defined a list of solutions and challenges, and we integrated these solutions and challenges in the geographic information system, story map, that we forwarded afterwards to the municipality for its integration in the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan. We engage children, we deliver something to the municipality, but how do we take it forward from here? After the challenges of the pandemic, in 2023, we're going to engage 6 schools and many more pupils in the process in order to find out what is their input on active urban mobility-related issues in the city, and then perform the first concrete transformation of the public space. We're looking forward to letting you know how the process unfolds. Thank you very much for inviting us here.
Hello everyone, I'm David, the co-founder of VePa Vertical Parking. We're one of the winners of last year's European Bauhaus KIC, and I'm super happy to be here and hearing all those great ideas. And what we do is we build vertical parking towers which function as urban mobility hubs. So the last year we spent developing this rotary parking system which needs a footprint of 35 square meters on the ground and builds 12 platforms for cars, or even better, other shares of mobility. So you can imagine you drive inside of the tower, you walk out, and then it rotates itself, so it's very space efficient. And even more important, you see it has 400 square meters of facade. On this facade, we can have vertical greening, we can have plants living, growing up from the bottom, we can have photovoltaic, even on the south and on the west side, and on the top floor, of course, or we can have art, which also reflects the idea of the new European Bauhaus, and we can implement so many ideas on this facade, but even more important is what happens inside of the tower. So our mission is, or our vision is, to get the private cars out of the cities and increase the supply of shared mobility. So you can have scooters, you can have cargo bikes, and all of this can be also charged in our towers. We found a solution to equip each platform with a wall box. But why are we doing this? So I told you, it's our vision to get rid of the private cars. And if you have a look at this city, it's a city of the future, or maybe a city of the Nordics, to be honest. We have a lot of pathways for persons going with their bikes, with shared mobility, not many cars. And whatever mobility there is, we use the existing infrastructure, and also we use our towers to charge and store mobility. And how does it come together with the new European Bauhaus? We talked a lot and we heard a lot about sustainability. A parking spot in our tower needs 98% less CO2 emissions than a parking spot in an underground garage. And this is just the building materials. If we also count into the facade with the greening and the photovoltaic, we are also much more ahead compared to current solutions. Also aesthetics, of course, you can always argue what looks nice, what does not look nice, but we have so many possibilities, and we're working together with world-class architects all over Europe to design the best way possible for our towers. And then together, I think it's one of the most important things that we give everyone living in cities access to mobility. Of course, the best way is to use public transport, but yeah, probably all of you know that sometimes a car is needed to transport something heavy or your whole family. And then we should go to shared mobility, and this can be in our VePa tower. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm presenting to the EIT Culture and Creativity, and I hope I get my slide, which is a startup just seed funded by the EIT. And our mission is to empower culture and creativity to be a game changer in the triple transition, what we call the digital, social, and green transition. But let's step back once and see what is really culture and creativity. Just remember maybe how you got here today. You will likely have read the news. Maybe listened to music, streamed a film. For sure, you dressed this morning, so it's all about fashion. We are sitting in a nice building. It's architecture, it's event and music, and of course, it is design, as it's chairs, tables, where you're sitting now. So you might go to work without a car, but never without creative industries. You use culture and creativity as a product every day, sometimes every hour, sometimes even minutely. And this being so, it's not just only a daily habit, but it's a market. It's a 500 billion euro market. Its value is its turnover in Europe. If you take the fashion sector in Europe, it's, worldwide, it's 1.9 trillion turnover every year. So what do you do with the innovation power of such market? Where do you take it to? And the idea here is not just to innovate the creative industries by itself, but to address it, to solve the global challenges, and to be a real game changer and to empower it for those triple transitions. So how do we do this? Well, we create an open innovation community designed to unlock the latent values of our sector. That means, more concretely, to focus on those 90% of innovators which are often not using the office of the European Union innovation ecosystem already. The SMEs, the small players. We bring those unusual players, the artists, together with the expected players like Fraunhofer, like Philips, like Bertelsmann, and media players like MediaPro. We cross-fertilize and connect anew to really maximize the impact of innovation. To do so, we have to harvest, obviously, capital. This innovation community is about investing. So our pitch to investors, to everybody here in the room, is to help us grow the investment capacity of the creative industries capital market. At the moment, this is about 30 billion euros a year, and we aim to create a wider, bigger investment market in Europe, reaching to 50 billion every year. So this is our task, and this is also our business proposition to investors, if it's in the architecture, also for philanthropic investment in cultural heritage, or in the media and film sector, reaching up to the fashion sector. To do so, we have to run our business, our startup, which was just seed funded. And this startup will have an average cost every year of about 5 million euro, and it will be financed by the income coming out of those investment funds which we are aiming to harvest and to manage. So in effect, this open innovation ecosystem is also a fund manager of public funds, of private funds, of the EIT funding. And with this, we have a good income model. You earn between 2 to 5% as an income, as a fund manager. And so you see, if we raise some 10 billion euros, it's easy to finance our yearly cost of 5 million euros. This platform, the 5 million euros, is invested in an innovation ecosystem which has co-location centers, hubs. Our co-location centers are now positioned in Barcelona, Amsterdam, Helsinki, in Vienna, in Košice, and also in Bologna. So I invite you, we'll take your tickets and checks here at lunch. And please remember, it's not only a good business investment, it's also a fun investment. Because who invented the backstage party? Always think of the creative industries. It will be a good investment, it will be beautiful and a fun investment. Thank you.
Almost there. Torben, during our panel discussion, referred to a bottom-top approach, making the case that on the one hand we need this inspiring innovation on the ground, but just the innovation on the ground is not enough. We also need policy makers to go hand in hand to change regulations, policies. Therefore, to complete the big picture that we started the day with, we would like to invite a representative of the state of Saxony-Anhalt to share with us his vision of the new European Bauhaus and how it relates to a region in Germany in the eastern part that is confronted with quite big structural changes due to the phase out of the old coal industry. At the same time, we see that the new European Bauhaus is a great opportunity for regions like Saxony-Anhalt, and therefore it's a pleasure to ask Dr. Jürgen Ude to come up on stage for his closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Ja, ich werde in Deutsch präsentieren, aber Sie können den englischen Text dann auch, glaube ich, lesen. Versuche mich auch ans Manuskript zu halten. Vielen Dank erstmal für die Einladung, liebe Teilnehmer, liebe Partner hier in diesem Raum. Es war sehr spannend, die Zeit, die ich hier gerade noch erleben durfte. In den letzten Minuten wirklich sehr interessante Partner und auch natürlich Projekte. Ja, lassen Sie mich kurz vorstellen. Ich bin im Ministerium für Kultur des Landes Sachsen-Anhalt in der Staatskanzlei tätig und dafür bin ich verantwortlich für das Thema Großansiedlungen. Und hinter dem Thema Großansiedlung steht ein Thema, was für Ostdeutschland und für Europa, glaube ich, und Deutschland wichtig ist, das Thema Intel. Aber auch für den Süden bei uns im mitteldeutschen Revier für die Umsetzung des Strukturwandels in der Braunkohle. Lassen Sie sich zum Kohleausstieg etwas sagen. Der Kohleausstieg im sachsen-anhaltischen Revier stellt die Region vor enormen Herausforderungen dar. Das können Sie sich vorstellen. Der Abbau und die Nutzung der Braunkohle bestimmt das Wirtschaften und Zusammenleben, und die Reporterin hat es gesagt, in der Region seit über 150 Jahren. Energieintensive Industrien, wie zum Beispiel die chemische Industrie, siedeln sich im Zuge von günstig verfügbaren Energien damals in dieser Region an. Die Region durchlebte durch den Fall der Mauer 1991 einen heftigen Strukturbruch und Deindustrialisierung. Und auch infolgedessen waren Arbeitsverlust und Abwanderung, die dort einsetzen, natürlich im Zusammenhang. Der geplante Kohleausstieg im Jahr 2038 stellt die Region vor erneuten Herausforderungen, allerdings unter andere Voraussetzungen. Durch die umfangreichen zeitlichen und finanziellen Ressourcen, die die Bundesrepublik Deutschland im Rahmen des Kohleausstiegs bereitstellt, besteht für die Region eine einmalige Chance, sich neu zu erfinden. Das Ziel ist, im Jahr 2038 soll das mitteldeutsche Revier ein attraktiver Wirtschafts- und Arbeitsstandort sein, der internationales Vorbild für eine nachhaltige Industrietransformation und das Ergebnis eines innovationsgetragenen Strukturwandels ist. Die Entwicklung einer weitgehend kohlendioxidneutralen Energieversorgung und die Entstehung zirkulärer Wirtschaftsprozesse sind Motor für neue Wertschöpfungspotenziale und, was für uns ganz wichtig ist, für neue Industriearbeitsplätze. Das Innovationsgeschehen im Revier soll durch leistungsfähige Innovationsnetzwerke und hier insbesondere zwischen Wirtschaft und Wissenschaft gestärkt werden. Es soll eine Umgebung geschaffen werden, die für eine Beschäftigung in Perspektiven sowie, und das ist uns auch allen wichtig, fairen und guten Arbeits- und Einkommensbedingungen steht. Wie ist die Vision? 2038 leben die Menschen im Revier in smarten Städten, Dörfern und Regionen, deren Infrastrukturen und Vernetzung zur Klimaneutralität beitragen. Wohnen, Arbeiten und naturnahe Umgebung soll mit Hilfe von Quartierskonzepten eng verbunden werden. Angebote der Daseinsfürsorge sollen für alle Generationen gut ausgestaltet werden. Wichtig, das Energiesystem der Zukunft soll auf erneuerbaren Energien ausgerichtet sein, wobei die Bezahlbarkeit der Energieversorgung sowie eine hohe Wertschöpfung vor Ort langfristig sichergestellt ist. Ich glaube, auch Themen, die uns heute gerade insbesondere betreffen. Es wird das Ziel verfolgt, Sachsen-Anhalt zu einem Vorreiter in der Ressourceneffizienz zu entwickeln. Hier bedarf es einer Wissens-, Forschungs- und Bildungsregion, in der anwendungsorientierte und kooperative Lösungen zur Erreichung dieses Ziels entwickelt werden. Ja, als Ende 2020 die Initiative für ein neues europäisches Bauhaus von der Präsidentin der Europäischen Kommission Ursula von der Leyen ins Leben gerufen wurde, ist man in Sachsen-Anhalt, und das sage ich auch ein bisschen mit Stolz, als Land des historischen Bauhauses natürlich hellhörig geworden. In der Folge formierte sich in Sachsen-Anhalt ein Konsortium aus Wissenschaft, aus Kultur lokalen Akteuren wie zum Beispiel der Hochschule Anhalt, der Stiftung Bauhaus Dessau, verschiedene Fraunhofer-Institute und weitere Partner. Angesichts des Klimawandels ist der Kohleausstieg unausweichlich. Wie aber kann die ökologische und soziale Transformation gelingen? Wir glauben, nur wenn es auch eine kulturelle Transformation gibt. Um den Klimanotstand erfolgreich entgegenzuwirken, ist es gemäß des neuen europäischen Bauhauses entscheidend, Erzählungen und Bezüge zu entwickeln, die die Menschen berühren und uns inspirieren, uns auf ein klimaneutrales Leben umzustellen. Es wird mehr brauchen als die Gestaltung von Landschaften und Industriebrachen in der Folgezeit des Bergbaus, sowie die Entwicklung neuer Energiequellen und umweltfreundlicher Industrien. Ein radikaler kultureller Wandel hin zu einer nachhaltigen Lebensweise ist notwendig, um eine ökologisch und sozial gerechte Welt zu ermöglichen. Dafür brauchen wir eine partizipative Bewegung wie das neue europäische Bauhaus. War das historische Bauhaus in Dessau ein Hauptakteur in der industriellen Moderne, so will das neue europäische Bauhaus einen Paradigmenwechsel hin zu postfossilen Designpraktiken einleiten. Damals wie heute sahen sich die Menschen mit einer kulturellen und sozialen Krise konfrontiert. Heute sind wir zusätzlich mit einer ökologischen Krise konfrontiert. Das historische Bauhaus hat nicht nur auf die Modernisierungsprozesse mit all ihrer Reibung reagiert, sondern auch proaktiv kulturelle Prozesse in Gang gesetzt. Die Weiter- und Neuentwicklung kultureller Modelle und Praktiken basierten auf technischen, künstlerischen und wissenschaftlichen Möglichkeiten. Produktionswissen wurde durch Werkstattpraxis und Prototypenentwicklung erschlossen. Umgekehrt wurden wissenschaftliche und künstlerische Erkenntnisse in die Bildungs- und Gestaltungsarbeit eingebracht. Heute schafft das partizipative Netzwerk des neuen europäischen Bauhauses in Sachsen-Anhalt eine Synthese der bisher durch die Entwicklung der Moderne ausdifferenzierten Wissensformen und integriert damit getrennten Disziplinen wie Wissenschaft, Kunst, Technik und Handwerk in einer Denkschule. Wie schon das historische Bauhaus ist es ein Experiment, das darauf abzielt, Grenzen aufzulösen, zu entkategorisieren und letztendlich auch zu verschmelzen. Ein Experiment, das bisher Getrennte miteinander zu verbinden. Interaktion von Kunst, Wissenschaft und Technologie, Verschmelzung von Forschung, Lehre und Praxis, und zwar interkulturell. Unabhängig vom historischen Bauhaus ist es heute unabdingbar, verschiedene Arten von Wissen und Methoden miteinander zu verbinden. Rationales und Erfahrungswissen, Alltagspraxis, vormodernes, außereuropäisches, intuitives, implizites Wissen, latentes Wissen über handwerkliche Traditionen, materielle Kulturen, Wissen über lokale Praktiken, all das, was in der früheren Moderne zunehmend obsolet war. Ausgangspunkt für das neue europäische Bauhaus in Sachsen-Anhalt sind der Burgenlandkreis und eine Stadt dort drin, die Stadt Zeitz. Und Sie werden sich fragen, warum diese Stadt Zeitz? Zeitz ist eine Stadt im ländlichen Raum in unmittelbarer Nähe eines noch aktiven Tagebaus, die nach dem Fall der Mauer große wirtschaftliche und soziale Veränderungen erlebt hat und durch den geplanten Kohleausstieg vor neuen Herausforderungen steht. Zeitz, diese Stadt, steht damit prototypisch für viele Regionen, nicht nur in Sachsen-Anhalt, sondern auch in Europa. Ausgehend von Zeitz ist das Ziel, außergewöhnliche und transferbare Prototypen und Szenarien zu entwickeln, welche Europa zu einem starken, inklusiven und vernetzten Ort mit ästhetisch ansprechenden und nachhaltigen Lebensumfeldern werden lässt. Überall bei uns in Sachsen-Anhalt im Revier gibt es zahlreiche Projektideen im Kontext Städtebau, Stadtumbau, Quartiersentwicklung. Die Frage ist jedoch, wie diese Ideen möglichst hoch innovative Projekte werden. Wie beteiligen wir dabei die Zivilgesellschaft? Auf diese und weitere Fragen kann das neue europäische Bauhaus Antworten und Ansätze liefern. Darum, und auch hier der Appell, brauchen wir ein neues europäisches Bauhaus. Lassen Sie zum Schluss noch einen kleinen Schlenker zum Norden Sachsen-Anhalts wagen. Da auch dort in dieser Region stehen wir vor einem tiefgreifenden Wandel. Sie haben sicherlich gehört, und ich habe es ja angesprochen, für uns als Ostdeutschland, Deutschland, Europa war die Entscheidung des US-amerikanischen Chipherstellers Intel, der seine größte und modernste Halbleiterfabrik in Europa errichten möchte, und das vor den Toren Magdeburgs, meiner Heimatstadt, eine ganz wichtige Entscheidung. Der Bau dieser Gigafabrik bedeutet einen enormen Sprung nach vorn für die Stadt, die einmal eine Stadt des Schwermaschinenbaus war, auf dem Weg zum, ja, wir sagen es, Hightech-Standort, den wir dort aufbauen wollen. Wir sagen, das ist für uns, für Sachsen, ein Zukunftsprojekt und nicht nur für Sachsen-Anhalt, sondern für Deutschland und Europa, denn wir wollen unabhängiger werden von asiatischen Produzierenden und die Intel-Chipfabrik hat in Magdeburg natürlich eine ganz besondere Bedeutung für die Errichtung eines neuen Wirtschaftszentrums, aber auch Wissenschaftszentrums. Neben dem wirtschaftlichen Impuls für den Großraum Magdeburg birgt die Ansiedlung auch Herausforderungen in Bezug auf das Wohnen und Zusammenleben. Hier kann das neue europäische Bauhaus ebenfalls Impulse in der Stadt- und Quartiersentwicklung setzen. Auch dafür brauchen wir die Ideen des neuen europäischen Bauhauses. Unser Ziel mit der Ansiedlung von Intel ist die Schaffung eines Hightech-Ökosystems, mit dem Innovationen und somit auch hier neue Perspektiven für Beschäftigung und Wertschöpfung entstehen. Lassen Sie mich zum Schluss sagen, das neue europäische Bauhaus ist Teil des Green Deal der EU, genauso wie die Ansiedlung Intels durch eine Initiative der EU, den European Chip Act, motiviert wurde diese Ideen durch Europa. Beide Beispiele zeigen einmal mehr, wie wichtig die europäische Ebene gerade für Ostdeutschland, für Deutschland ist. Ja, liebe Teilnehmer, ich bedanke mich recht herzlich hier für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit, freue mich auf das jetzt anstehende, glaube ich, Get Together Meeting und ja, wünsche Ihnen Gesundheit und natürlich viele, viele neue und gute Projektideen. Vielen Dank.
Wow, what a ride. We started broad, went deep, and finished on a regional perspective. I think it's time to take the opportunity to express our gratitude to our hosts, EIT Climate-KIC, our panelists who came all the way from Sweden, Denmark, and Spain. And yeah, to express our gratitude for all the inspiration that you gave us. You instilled some hope. And I agree with Ursula von der Leyen, who said, if the Green Deal has a soul, then it is the new European Bauhaus. So be the soul, enjoy the networking lunch, and from 2 p.m. onwards you can also enjoy the art exhibition here at Kindle. Have fun, connect, and become radical agents for change. Thank you very much.